15 years of dedication to Meridian Marketing Group ended with a single email, sent at 4:47 p.m. on what should have been the proudest day of my life. I still remember sitting in my car outside my son's graduation ceremony, tears streaming down my face as I read Victoria Chen's cold words. Your decision to prioritize personal matters over crucial client obligations demonstrates a fundamental lack of commitment to this organization. Effective immediately, your employment with Meridian Marketing Group is terminated. But let me back up. My name is Diana Mitchell, and until 3 months ago, I was Meridian's top-performing account executive. I'd built their client portfolio from a handful of local businesses to a roster of Fortune 500 companies. My dedication to the firm was absolute: missed family dinners, canceled vacations, endless late nights at the office. I'd given them everything, including precious time with my son, Jason. Being a single mom in corporate America is like walking a tightrope while juggling flaming torches. One misstep and everything burns. For years, I'd managed that precarious balance, largely thanks to my mother's help with Jason. But Mom passed away last year, leaving me to navigate parenthood and career alone. Jason, bless his heart, never complained about the missed parent-teacher conferences or the times I had to work through his baseball games. "It's okay, Mom," he'd say, showing maturity beyond his 17 years. "I understand your job is important." But his high school graduation? That was non-negotiable. I'd marked the date in my calendar a year in advance, cleared it with HR, and even arranged coverage for my clients. Victoria Chen, our newly appointed CEO, had different ideas. The email arrived at 8:30 a.m. on graduation day. Mandatory emergency meeting with Stellar Corp, 2 p.m. today. All senior account executives must attend. My heart dropped. Stellar Corp was our biggest potential client, worth millions in annual revenue. But Jason's graduation ceremony started at 2 p.m. sharp. I immediately tried to reach Victoria. "I'm sorry, but I absolutely cannot attend," I explained, keeping my voice professional despite the panic rising in my chest. "My son's high school graduation is today. I've had this day approved for months." Victoria's laugh was cold enough to freeze hell. "Diana, darling, surely you understand that in our business, personal commitments must sometimes take a back seat. I need my top people in this meeting. I understand the importance, but this is my only child's graduation. I can join virtually or—" "Let me be clear," she cut me off. "Your presence is required. In person. If you're not there, I'll take it as your resignation." I stood in my office, phone clutched in my hand as memories flooded through me. Jason at 5, asking why I couldn't come to his kindergarten play. Jason at 12, accepting his academic achievement award while my empty seat gathered dust. Jason at 15, scoring the winning run in his baseball championship while I was stuck in a client meeting. Not this time. "I'm sorry, Victoria, but I won't miss my son's graduation. I'll handle any fallout from Stellar Corp tomorrow." Her silence spoke volumes. "I see," she finally said. "Well, I hope it's worth it." I left the office at noon, my hands shaking but my conscience clear. The graduation ceremony was beautiful. Jason looked so grown up in his cap and gown, delivering his valedictorian speech about perseverance and sacrifice. When he mentioned me, "My mom taught me that true success means never compromising your values," I burst into tears. That's when Victoria's termination email arrived. I kept it together through the ceremony, through the photos and congratulations, through Jason's celebration dinner with his friends. Only later that night, alone in my home office, did I allow myself to break down. 15 years. Countless nights and weekends sacrificed. Client relationships built on trust and personal attention. All ended because I chose to watch my son graduate. But Victoria had made one crucial mistake. In her haste to punish me, she'd forgotten about the peculiarities of my client relationships. You see, over the years, I developed a unique approach to client management. While everything was properly documented in Meridian systems, the real magic happened in my personal interactions. The birthday reminders, the handwritten notes, the small personal touches that turned business relationships into friendships. None of that was in the company database. More importantly, I maintained detailed records of every conversation, every request, every promise made by Meridian's leadership, including Victoria's recent decisions that had left many clients uneasy. All backed up securely, all technically my personal notes rather than company property. The next morning, I received another email from Victoria, this one considerably less confident. Please ensure all client contact information and relationship notes are properly transferred to the company database before your departure. A reminder that your non-compete agreement prevents you from contacting these clients directly. I smiled as I read it. She really should have checked the details of that non-compete agreement. I had very carefully years ago. It prevented me from poaching clients while employed by Meridian. Once terminated, I was free to engage with anyone I chose. But I didn't rush to action. Instead, I took 2 weeks to decompress, spending quality time with Jason before he left for college. We went camping, something we hadn't done since he was small. Under the stars, I finally told him everything. "Mom, you don't need them," he said, his face illuminated by the campfire. "You practically built their client base. Start your own firm." Out of the mouths of babes, the idea took root, growing stronger each day. I had savings, a solid reputation in the industry, and most importantly, relationships built on years of trust. But before I could put any plans in motion, the market shifted. First came the whispers about Stellar Corp. The meeting I'd missed. It hadn't gone well. Victoria's aggressive approach had alienated their board, and they'd signed with a competitor. Then other rumors started circulating. Major clients expressing dissatisfaction, key accounts considering other agencies. I watched it all unfold from the sidelines, methodically preparing for my next move. I rented a small office space, filed the paperwork for my own agency, and began reaching out to former colleagues who'd left Meridian over the years. Talented people who'd been pushed out by Victoria's toxic leadership style. Mark Stevens, our former creative director, was the first to join me. Then came Sarah Wong from digital marketing and Tom Martinez from client services. Within a month, I had a dream team ready to launch. But I waited, because I knew what was coming. The first signs appeared in the financial reports. Meridian's stock price dropped 15% in one day after a disappointing quarterly earnings call. Victoria's explanation to the board blamed temporary client relationship challenges and promised quick resolution. Then came the client exodus. 3 major accounts announced their departure in the same week. The stock dropped another 20%. Analysts started asking questions about Meridian's client retention strategies. I maintained radio silence, focusing on setting up my new venture, but I made sure to keep my personal phone number unchanged, the one all my former clients had on speed dial. The call I'd been waiting for came exactly 3 months after my termination. I was in my new office, reviewing proposals with my team, when Victoria's name appeared on my phone screen. "Diana," her voice had lost its usual sharp edge. "I think we need to talk." I smiled, thinking of all the times I'd seen her dismiss loyal employees, crush careers, and destroy relationships built over decades. "Yes, Victoria, I believe we do. But that conversation would have to wait until tomorrow. Because tonight, I had a video call scheduled with Jason to hear all about his first week at college, and this time, nothing was going to make me miss it." I chose to meet Victoria at her office. There was something poetic about having this conversation in the same room where she threatened my job 3 months ago. The Meridian Marketing Group building looked exactly the same from the outside, all gleaming glass and steel reaching toward the sky. But inside, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. Gone was the bustling energy I remembered. The creative teams area, once alive with laughter and brainstorming sessions, sat eerily quiet. The client service floor, which used to buzz with activity even at odd hours, was half empty. Even the reception desk, where Annie had greeted visitors with warm smiles for 20 years, was staffed by a temp who barely looked up from her phone. Victoria's secretary, a new one, I noticed, led me to the executive suite. Through the glass walls, I could see Victoria pacing, phone pressed to her ear. She was wearing the same power suit she'd worn the day she fired me, but it hung differently now, as if the fabric itself could sense her desperation. "Diana." She ended her call and gestured me inside, attempting to project her usual authority. "Thank you for coming. Please sit." I remained standing, taking in the subtle changes in her office. The fresh flowers she'd always insisted on were missing. The wall that once displayed awards and press clippings now showed mounting evidence of Meridian's decline, urgent memos, competitor analysis reports, and what looked like several resignation letters. "I assume this is about the client situation," I said, keeping my voice neutral. Victoria's smile was strained. "Yes. We seem to be experiencing some temporary relationship challenges with key accounts. Nothing serious, but nothing serious. I interrupted, pulling out my phone. Let's see, Stellar Corp signed with Brighton Media last month. A $12 million annual contract. Global Tech terminated their retainer last week. Another $8 million gone. And I hear Universal Brands is reviewing their options. The color drained from Victoria's face. How did you know? I smiled. Because they all called me. Every single one of those clients reached out to ask my opinion about their Meridian relationships. And those are just the ones who've acted so far. Victoria sank into her chair, her carefully maintained facade cracking. That's why I called you. We need those relationship notes you kept. The personal details about clients, their preferences, their history with the firm. Our database only has the basics. I sat down across from her, smoothing my skirt. You mean the notes you called unnecessary and unprofessional during your first week as CEO? The ones you said were a waste of time when you could be pursuing new business. I may have been hasty in that assessment. Hasty? I leaned forward. You systematically dismantled everything that made Meridian special. The personal touch, the long-term relationship building, the trust we'd earned over decades. You turned it into a numbers game, and guess what? The numbers are telling you exactly what I told you 3 months ago. Clients aren't just account numbers in a database. Victoria's jaw tightened. What do you want? Excuse me? To share your notes, to help us rebuild these relationships. Name your price. I laughed, the sound echoing in her massive office. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. It never was. I pulled out a folder and placed it on her desk. Inside were printouts of emails, meeting notes, and client feedback spanning the past year. This is what real client relationship management looks like. Susan from Global Tech? Her daughter just started college too. We spent an hour last week comparing parent weekend horror stories. Mike at Universal Brands? He's finally taking that sailing trip he's been talking about for 5 years. And John at Stellar Corp. His wife finished chemotherapy last month. These aren't just clients, Victoria. They're people. She flipped through the papers, her expression growing more desperate with each page. We can make this right. Double your previous salary. Triple it. A seat on the board. Whatever you want. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. What I wanted was to watch my son graduate. What I wanted was a company that valued dedication to both clients and employees. What I wanted was respect for 15 years of loyalty. Reaching into my briefcase, I pulled out another folder, thicker this time. This is my client list. Not just names and numbers, but real relationships. People who trust me, who value the way I do business. As of this morning, 40% of them have already signed with Mitchell and Associates. Victoria's head snapped up. Mitchell and Associates. My new firm. You'll be receiving the official announcements tomorrow, along with resignation letters from some of your best remaining talent. I paused, letting that sink in. Mark Stevens, Sarah Wong, Tom Martinez. Remember them? The people you called replaceable resources. You can't do this, she whispered, but we both knew she was wrong. Actually, I can. You might want to have your lawyers review my non-compete agreement, the one you modified last year to streamline operations. It specifically prevents poaching clients while employed by Meridian. I'm not employed by Meridian anymore. You made sure of that. Every contact I've had with these clients since then has been completely legal. I stood up, gathering my belongings. Oh, and Victoria, the board meeting tomorrow, the one where you're supposed to present your turnaround strategy, I'd suggest having a good explanation for why Meridian's market value has dropped 60% under your leadership. She sat there, surrounded by the evidence of her failures, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. One more thing, I said, pausing at the door. You know what I was doing when you called me to set up this meeting? Having a video chat with my son about his first college paper. He got an A, and this time, I didn't have to miss it. The next few months were a whirlwind. Mitchell and Associates grew faster than I'd anticipated, largely because we built it on the principles Victoria had dismissed: personal attention, genuine relationships, and a culture that respected both clients and employees. We took over Meridian's old client list not through aggressive tactics or undercutting prices, but by offering what those clients had always valued: dedication, understanding, and genuine care for their success. One by one, they made the switch, bringing their business to a firm that reflected their own values. The industry took notice. Trade publications ran features about our revolutionary approach to client relationships, though anyone who'd been in the business more than a few years knew it wasn't revolutionary at all. It was simply about treating people like people, not numbers on a spreadsheet. Victoria? She resigned from Meridian 3 months after our meeting, citing personal reasons. The board replaced her with someone who understood the value of relationships, ironically, one of the senior executives she pushed out during her tenure. Last week, I received an unexpected email from her. She's starting a consulting business, she wrote, and wanted my advice about building client relationships. She ended with what seemed like a genuine apology for how she'd handled my termination. I thought about ignoring it, but then I remembered something my son had said during one of our video calls. Mom, your success is the best revenge, but your compassion is your real strength. So I wrote back, offering to meet for coffee and share some insights about relationship building in business. After all, success isn't just about winning, it's about winning with grace. Speaking of grace, Jason made the dean's list his first semester. When he called to tell me I was in the middle of a client meeting. You know what I did? I excused myself, took his call, and celebrated with him right then and there. My client, Susan from Global Tech, insisted on saying hello to him too. She wanted to tell him about her daughter's academic achievements as well. That's the difference between building a business on relationships and building one on just numbers. In my office now, I have 2 frames on my wall. One holds Mitchell & Associates' first dollar earned. The other holds the program from Jason's graduation, complete with a coffee stain from that day. They remind me that success isn't about choosing between family and career. It's about building a life that honors both. Yesterday, I hired a new account executive, a single mom with 2 kids. During the interview, she apologetically mentioned that she'd need to leave early some days for her children's events. I smiled and showed her our company policy. Family milestones are mandatory attendance events. She burst into tears, saying she'd never worked anywhere that understood. But that's exactly what I built Mitchell & Associates to be, a place that understands what really matters. Victoria taught me an invaluable lesson, though probably not the one she intended. She showed me that true power isn't about control or intimidation. It's about building something meaningful, something that enriches not just your own life, but the lives of others. The view from my new office isn't as spectacular as the one from Meridian's tower. We're only on the 10th floor, and the building is older, with character rather than sleek modernity. But every morning when I walk in, I see people who are happy to be here. I see clients who stop by just to chat. I see a business built on relationships, respect, and understanding. And every evening, when I leave at a reasonable hour to video chat with my son about his day, I know I made the right choice, because success isn't measured in client lists or profit margins alone. It's measured in moments not missed, in relationships not sacrificed, and in building something you can be proud of. That's the real victory. That's the best revenge.